So I finally saw this, Tarantino's, what is rumored to be his last film, or maybe not, the 9th film, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I mainly went to go see this because I thought the trailer, the teaser, was hilarious. Everyone was saying, that's the best actor I've seen in my whole life. Thank you. Rick fucking Dalton. And the bass song was very electric, very interesting, so it got me a little bit pumped. And it got an 18 certificate, which I was a bit worried that this film was not going to get, because it's not quite as violent as some of his other films like Kill Bill, Inglourious Bastards, or Django Unchained. But it did get it eventually, albeit on the much lower end of the spectrum. Trust me, I've seen worse. Even 15s are more bloody these days. So getting back to everything, it's essentially sort of loose mix of montages and acting scenarios and narration of this guy who's the stunt double for this guy, and this guy who's trying to be like some sort of western mogul, just like John Wayne was back in the 60s, you can't remember about the Duke. And then Cliff Booth, Brad Pitt's character, that's Leonardo DiCaprio, just so you know. Well, you should, because he was in Titanic. Brad Pitt, obviously, from many great films such as Mexican, Cool World, and War Machine. Films that you probably have never even heard of. Yep, he's in this, he's the stunt double, and, he tries to get around his way with so many things and so forth, and that's Margot Robbie from Suicide Squad and Wolf of Wall Street, playing Sharon Tate, Roman Polanski's, that disgraced child abuser. That was his wife before she got murdered by Charles Manson. So essentially, it's a little hard to explain how this film turns because everyone's saying it's about the Manson murders. Partially. Wonder why the connection was made between the Manson murders is because Sharon Tate's in it, and also the Brad Pitt character eventually has a bit of a fling with one of the girls as he carpools her over to this ranch with all these crazy Manson cult people around. So it follows by that, and then you see everything else in between with him trying to act around and then seeing one of her own movies, The Wrecking Crew. So it's essentially a hodgepodge of cinema in celebrating cinema itself. I know Tarantino has a funny way of presenting the history and world of cinema on its own by being very specific and nodding to very sort of intense and very subgenres like spaghetti westerns, like blaxploitation, and he does it even more in this film to the point that it's both endearing, but sometimes it can be quite repetitive and annoying. And one thing I've had issues with Tarantino films is pacing and excessive use of dialogue. This has it too, but at least it was funny. I had, a bit more of a blast with this one than I did with Kill Bill Volume 2. One can argue Inglourious Bastards. I did not like Hateful Eight, and I wasn't big on Jackie Brown, but at least this one had its moments. But this ain't Pulp Fiction, my friend, nor is it Django Unchained or even Reservoir Dogs with the killer soundtrack. This has a killer soundtrack too, but it ain't Reservoir Dogs and it ain't Pulp Fiction. But you know what? At least you get to see the same sort of things with the little specific subgenre analysis and the excessive dialogue and the foot pornography that you see a lot of in his films. He seems to have weird erotic fetishes for depicting, Margot Robbie and then the hippie girl that Brad Pitt carpools and focus on it as if he sort of takes the footage, goes to it in his trailer and starts todging and wanking himself a bit just watching it. God, you must be crazy. It's kind of like James Cameron with his little fetish for showing alien life form. Sorry, that's Ridley Scott I'm thinking of, but you get the idea. Overall, going back to the movie itself, it's an acquired taste. If you don't really like excessive dialogue or sort of very, very insider movie knowledge, you're probably not going to like this. You're probably going to struggle. But if you want to have a good laugh, and you're definitely familiar with the works of Tarantino, and you like cinema itself, you're definitely gonna love this film. And even American TV, because it references a lot of westerns and Bonanza, Gunsmoke, Rifleman sort of era of TV programming, which is quite interesting in its own way. They even go with that late 60s, early 70s theme with the film poster, which I think is quite genius. If you should collect them on eBay, you should. I might even get a copy myself, but they didn't have any at the foyer, so maybe next time. And also, you know, we're going back to the 18th certificate. You know, it's not as graphic as some might have imagined. So if you're expecting that sort of level of violence that he's known for, you might be a little disappointed. Kind of like with Jackie Brown, it doesn't quite go there. It's still a you know, mature film. It's still rated R, but it's not quite nasty enough. In other words. And as well, I kind of forgot what I was going to say, but I thought it was better than that other 18 film that came out, Midsommar, which I just thought was just watch a documentary on Sweden, or just watch that Swedish film Glans or Border by Ali Alabasi instead. And for that, you'll see me next time reviewing for Good Boys, and maybe a few others. This is Skinny Ebert signing off until next time. Keep on watching, man. You have to know about the latest dialogue. Did you see about this obscure martial arts movie that references Bruce Lee and you know, Polanski, you know, all these things? Because, you know, I'm Twin Tarantino. I have a big ass chin, and I have a weird, you know, sort of sexual fetishes, kind of like Quagmire. You know, that's how I talk, like, you know. There's so much Skinny Ebert, man, because with my films, it's gonna be so great, man.